Coming into the second day of Overwatch League matches, no one expected much out of the Dallas Fuel. Despite a promising offseason with quite a few good pickups, the Fuel fell flat in front of their home crowd in a 1-3 loss to an LA Valiant roster made up mostly of fresh contenders' talent. Their next match was against the defending champion San Francisco Shock, who were carrying over a 20-0 map win streak from the 2019 playoffs into the new season and were looking to extend it against the Fuel. For the first two maps, it looked as though the win streak would continue, as San Francisco took Oasis and then Eichenwald. But on Horizon Lunar Colony, the Fuel's fortunes began to shift. Dallas not only managed to prevent the Shock from even capturing point A, but then proceeded to win the map themselves, ending the Shock's map win streak at 22. Even though Dallas proceeded to lose the next map, and then the series 3-1, it was a massive boost to the home crowd's morale, and surprised many who thought that the Fuel would simply be flattened by the steamroller that is the San Francisco Shock. So how did the Fuel manage to take a map off of the defending champions? That's what we're going to find out in this episode of Behind the Action. Horizon has historically been a map that lends itself well to cheese compositions, which tend to be a favorite of the Fuel. Dallas starts off their defense with a classic treehouse comp, which is very common for this map. The treehouse composition camps on the high ground while raining down long-range damage with Junkrat and Widowmaker to control the sightlines approaching the point. Orisa's shield is ideal for a static defense like this, providing some cover for Widowmaker to peek out for picks, while Junkrat can use his trap to control the major entrances to the point. Orisa also combos well with Junkrat's grenades and concussive mine, which we'll see more of later. D.Va plays the role of the rotator, being the first one to drop to point to contest it. This buys time for the Orisa to rotate to point, which allows the D.Va to fly back up to the high ground to get healed up. Notice that at all times, this composition does not want to give up control of the high ground, both to rain down damage and also to keep their supports and DPS at a safe distance. For supports, Dallas have elected to go with Ana and Brigitte. Ana is good for long-range healing, especially since she'll have to heal teammates on the opposite high ground, and she can help to control sightlines with her long-range damage and biotic grenade. Brigitte serves as consistent team healing, while helping to control the point with her high survivability and CC. So how will San Francisco overcome this? The Shock first try to attack this with a Symmetra teleporter straight to point. This strategy is a favorite of the Shock's. In fact, they've pulled out this exact strategy against the Dallas Fuel before. The idea here is to bypass the long-range control of Widow and Junkrat by teleporting right to the point and then take the point with their close quarters combat composition.
Very low, they move off the point for just a second, and San Francisco Shock will take it.
This time though, the Fuel are ready. Doha shuts down the push before it even starts with a brave dive into the Shock as they group up to go through the teleporter, killing both supports and dealing massive amounts of damage to Super and Choi Hyo Bin. For their next push, the Shock switch back to Reinhardt D.Va and opt for something a little less risky, teleporting from inside the small room directly to the stairwell. Unfortunately, Doha is late to cut off the rotation and only manages to split Choi Hyo Bin off from his team, but can't quite finish him. Once there, they push to the high ground and Rascal walls Gamsu off, but he manages to escape as well. The Shock decide not to take the high ground, and they do almost get 2 ticks out of it. But then a nade from Crimzo on the high ground catches both Super and Striker, which Doha follows up with his mine. Choi Hyo Bin had earlier tried to fly out of the point to boop Dallas away from it, which ended up with him being out of position to eat these abilities. With Striker down and Crimzo having narrowly avoided being killed by Rascal, Dallas is able to retake.
There's one man right now in the world. Filthy little fade away there from Doha. You love to see it. Dallas Fuel look to be holding on.
However, Decay was killed in the chaos after the fight, and the Shock see an opportunity that is too good to pass up. Perhaps it was overconfidence, but the Shock try to reset fast and use Striker's teleporter to get into the stairwell again, both to rescue Choi Hyo Bin and Rascal, and to press their man advantage with Decay down. A well-placed grenade from Doha takes out Striker, and he trades for Rascal with his tire, before another great nade from Crimzo shuts down the push entirely, taking Super to below 200 HP and wasting Architect's nano boost as Decay returns to the fight to shoot him in the face.
Incredibly powerful bio nade coming out from Crimzo, totally negating what Architect was going for, and now, silence.
In the next fight, Striker has switched to Sombra, presumably to try and put some flanking pressure on Dallas's DPS duo. They now opt to go under the Fuel's high ground straight to point, but Dallas have clearly practiced for this as well. A wonderful halt by Gamsu pulls the supports away from their shield, and Doha's nade plus Crimzo's Bionade both hit their targets, taking Moth down instantly. Architect survives due to Doha's grenade having impacted Moth instead of him, but it doesn't matter as he's taken down by a mine. Again, the Shock choose not to reset, knowing that Moth can get back to them if Decay's attention is drawn away, and Architect can simply heal from long range. Next, a great piece of wall riding from Moth to take Decay below half health is followed up by Striker, and for a moment, the Shock seem to have the advantage as Doha goes down. But crucially, Closer has stayed alive this whole time to help kill Rascal, and then kills Moth as well. And a huge Bionade from Crimzo onto Super means he can't kill Note before he gets back into his mech. This buys enough time for Decay to come back and clean up on Tracer. The last fight is a frantic mess as both teams rush back to the point, but Doha's opening pick on Architect, coupled with Note eating Rascal's Blizzard, more or less seals it for the fuel. After a long and drawn out round on defense, it's time to see what the Dallas offense can do. The Shock are using their tried and true Reinhardt, D.Va, McCree, Mei composition, while the Fuel are using a high risk, high reward strategy with their EMP, Nanoblade composition. The idea is simple. EMP to prevent anyone killing or surviving the nano-boosted Genji, while stacking on a damage boost from Mercy. However, the Shock's composition is loaded with CC, with almost every character having some way of shutting Genji down. Let's skip ahead to when Dallas actually gets to use their Nanoblade. Doha opens up by getting the hack onto Moth, preventing him from using Sound Barrier, but trades his life for it. Decay is the next one in, but a huge wall from Rascal prevents Gamsu and Note from going in with him. This means no defense matrix from Note to protect him, allowing Striker to land his flashbang and triple tap Decay, instantly shutting down Dallas's win condition. This is what makes the Shock such a scary team. They always have a plan to counter whatever gets thrown at them. For the final fight, the Shock know that Dallas only has an EMP and self-destruct, which could be a very deadly combo. With Decay having swapped to Tracer, Dallas now threatens to overwhelm the Shock's tanks from all sides with their hypermobility, and the Shock try to seize the advantage by nano-boosting Striker instead and engaging with an Earth Shatter. But it doesn't work, as Note simply jumps off the point, and now San Francisco has thrown away 2 ults for nothing. At the same time, Architect sleeps Crimzo on the high ground, and Dallas's tanks jump to the high ground to save him, while Super tries to move to the high ground to help Rascal and Choi Hyo-bin follow up. Crucially, this leaves the Shock supports and Striker on the low ground, and Decay calls this out to his teammates. His blink onto the point baits out Striker's flash, which means that when Gamsu jumps Architect, there's nothing to stop him, and he barely finishes off the Ana with 39 health remaining. It's important to note that while all this is happening, Moth is still afraid to show himself as he wants to drop Sound Barrier without getting EMP'd, but this causes him to be out of position and unable to boot Gamsu away from Architect. Doha then throws his translocator onto the point in order to draw the Shock's attention as they want to negate his EMP. Note's bomb follows him onto the point and takes out Rascal. Suddenly, Moth realizes that the EMP he was waiting for is never coming, as Doha never actually intended to use it to win the fight. He just wants to use it to bait the Shock into collapsing on him or spreading out, making them easier targets for his teammates. Moth finally uses Beat, but it's too late to save Super. Striker still almost manages to save the point, but it's too late.
Able to hold this right now. Gamsu gets the nano boost off. The overtime is up right now.
Never say never, Bren. Striker's still here.
Striker!
Oh.
Striker! I don't believe what I'm witnessing, but the Dallas Fuel will take map number 3.
So, what can we say about the Fuel's shocking win? For starters, San Francisco was a little bit greedy, with some high-risk plays like the Symmetra teleporter straight to the point, and Super's almost max-range shatter that ended up getting no one. At the same time, Dallas clearly prepared very hard for their defense, with some great set plays to shut down whatever the Shock threw at them. The Doha double kill on the teleporter and the Halt Bionade play clearly illustrate this. However, their offense was a little more shaky, mostly because of Striker's absolutely ridiculous McCree play. Finally, there was some really awesome coordination from both teams, such as the team effort to shut down Decay's Blade and the bait play from Doha and Note. Dallas fans should be encouraged by their team's display, even if their performance on more traditional maps leaves something to be desired. That's it for us on this episode of Behind the Action. Do you think Dallas can improve even further in the coming weeks? Who are you cheering for in this 2020 season? Let us know in the comments below.